Welcome. Today we will understand how the Renaissance started. The word Renaissance means rebirth, and it refers to a period in European civilization that was marked by the rediscovery of classical philosophy, literature, and art. It was probably the most important period in history, because there were many new discoveries in many different fields, and modern society started to develop. It is difficult to establish when exactly the Renaissance was born, and in order to understand how it began we need to start from the Middle Ages, or Dark Ages. As the name suggests, it was not a nice period for most humans. The Dark Ages were based on the feudal system, which is a type of society in which landholders provide land to tenants in exchange for their loyalty and service. Life during the Middle Ages for most people was all about war, hunger, hard work, disease and death. Not nice at all. But toward the end of the Middle Ages, things started to improve. It was a relatively quiet period in Europe, and most countries were at peace. Trade and commerce increased, and new discoveries started to happen. In particular, the Italian city of Florence was thriving, and even the poor people were slowly getting richer. People in Florence began to think differently about life. They studied the works of the Greeks and the Romans, and realized that earlier civilizations had lived differently. Life didn't have to be hard like during the Middle Ages, and it could now be enjoyed more. Florentines started to think that people should be educated, and that things like art, music, and science could make life better for everyone. This new way of thinking was called humanism, and it quickly spread all over Europe. It was based on the idea that humans were in control of their lives. Before, life was in the hands of God. New discoveries in the medical field led people to understand that if you got ill, it was not because God was punishing you. Some illnesses could now be cured, and although the faith in God didn't disappear, it was now perceived in a different way. Humans were now thinking for themselves, and their feelings and activities became more important. This was reflected a lot in art, which became more accessible. Art now was not just about God anymore. During the Middle Ages, in fact, art was mainly made for the church, and most paintings depicted Jesus in an aesthetically pleasing way. For example, his crucifixion had always been represented without much suffering, his face would look calm, and the scene unreal. It was nice to look at, but it was not exactly truthful to what really happened. During the Renaissance, artists began to represent more realistic images, with all the drama and emotion that came with them. This brings us to a particular event that happened in Florence in 1401. Many historians agree that this episode can be considered the start of the Renaissance. The city of Florence needed to install a new door in the baptistry. The door had to be decorated with tiles, all representing the same biblical scene, which was the binding of Isaac. In the story, God asks Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, to prove his faith. As Abraham begins to comply, God sends an angel to stop him from killing his son. So the city of Florence launches a competition for all the local artists who wanted to take up the challenge of engraving this scene on a tile. This competition began one of the greatest artistic rivalries of all time when two artists got to the end of the competition. They were Ghiberti and Brunelleschi. But the judges couldn't choose whose tile deserved to win. Ghiberti represented a traditional medieval scene, beautiful and almost perfect for the execution, but lacking drama. Abraham is looking at Isaac with a piercing gaze and the knife is pulled back, depicting unwillingness. There is a visible pause of grief. Brunelleschi depicted a more raw and emotional scene, in line with the humanistic ideas that were starting to spread at the time. Abraham's face looks aggressive and Isaac's mouth is open, as if to cry out helplessly. Also, the way the angel grips Abraham's hand, right at the very moment he is about to stab Isaac, adds to the amount of aggression and creates a sense of emergency. The fact that the judges loved Brunelleschi's work shows how popular humanism was becoming. In the end, Brunelleschi and Ghiberti were asked to work together to create the final work, but Brunelleschi was too proud to accept, so Ghiberti ended up receiving the commission. His doors became popular as the gates of paradise. No matter the winner, both artists went on to achieve great successes, and they crucially shaped the Renaissance. We could consider this competition the start of the Renaissance, which became for many the most unique and interesting period in history. It cultivated a new change in art, knowledge, and culture, and it changed people's approach to life. It laid out the foundation for the European age of exploration, which led to Europe's global power. Its big-name discoveries, masterpieces and developments have gone down in history as some of the greatest creations on Earth. So, what do you think? Did you like this story? Leave a comment.